Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am McSnazzi, and we are back again in Planet Zoo today for the most exciting episode so far, at least for me. I had a lot of fun making this episode, and if you saw those little sneak peek shots at the beginning of the episode, that's something I am trying out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I think it's a good way to start off the episode with a little bit of a calmer feel where you can see kind of what we end up in the end, a little bit of a sneak peek of what the build's gonna look like later on. But we are back. This is episode 13, lucky number 13 here for my favorite animal that we're gonna be putting in this zoo, the Grizzly Bear. Finally, we are making the Grizzly Bear exhibit. My logo for the channel is obviously a silhouette of a grizzly bear, so I've been really excited and been waiting to make this video since we started the Timber Gorge project, and I know it took me 13 episodes to get here, but I'm really happy with what we've built so far and how this build looks in the end. I wanted to save this episode till we got a little bit further into the park to make the grizzly bears, because I knew my skills would improve, and I really wanted to put my best foot forward when we made a grizzly bear exhibit. So here we are. This is what we're doing, starting with a lot of terrain work. I wanted to make this look super natural, like there's a big backdrop of a mountain in the background, of a stream, or more like a rough river flowing down from the top of that mountain down into the grizzly bear exhibit, and that's where they're at. And that's what we try to do, and that's why we're starting with a lot of terrain work. But I like starting with the initial terrain work because I like you to see the process that I go through in order to make these nice exhibits, because I know when I watch videos like these, I want to see where they started. How did they get from flat, just grass, to a nice looking exhibit? So I want to show a lot of this terrain work, that we really build out the structure of what we're doing here. And so that's what we're doing. I wanted to put this nice river through here, and I really like how it turns out. Nice stream, because grizzly bears do fish in, well, more like hunt fish in the streams. They like to fish for salmon, etc. So we're gonna do a bit of a stream. It's just a natural thing for grizzly bears to have in their exhibit, and we're gonna also make a nice waterfall flowing down into it. Fun facts about grizzly bears is they really do like to fish, so I wanted to put a lot in there. They eat up to 25 fish a day when they're preparing for hibernation, which is a ton. And they live for up to 30 years in the wild and 40 years in captivity, so they're gonna be here for a while. So we want to build a really nice exhibit for these guys to hang out in, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So let's talk about going forward. The Arctic Pack DLC has been announced as we're building this sort of cave for the grizzlies here on the screen. But I did speculate in the last video what we'd get, and I didn't expect us to get a whole full DLC with 4 new animals, a bunch of building materials, and a bunch of new nature pieces, which I'm super excited about, and it's just in time for Christmas. So probably the next episode, I may be able to squeeze out episode 14 on Thursday, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it, because I really want to work on a Christmas special for you guys. And I want to do a 2-part Christmas special, 1 episode on Christmas Eve and 1 on Christmas Day, and we're going to make every exhibit for the 4 new animals that they're adding, which is the polar bear, the Arctic wolves, the caribou, which I'm super excited about. Those are awesome. And I think the last one is the mountain ram, like rams with the squiggly horns. Yes, those will be fun to make too. Super unique animal we haven't had yet. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna be spending a ton of time working on that so I can get that out for you guys for the holiday season. So I'm not sure if we're gonna get a Thursday episode out this week, because we usually do about Monday, Thursday, 2 episodes a week. But if we don't, you guys will know why. So just a little bit of a heads up there, and I'm really excited to do that. And we're going to Christmas up the Timber Gorge Zoo. We're gonna make it look like what it would look like if this zoo was open at Christmas. We'll put some stuff around that's very holiday themed that may not, stick around year round, and we'll remove it later once the holiday season's over. Before those Christmas special episodes, we'll be doing that. So here, as you've seen on the screen, we've added the waterfall, we've put the special effects in, and I'm going to put a lot of rocks around this so it looks like sort of a like northern mountainous sort of river. And we've put those nice, I really like those rapids foam effects. They really look like the water's moving. So I think it's super, super awesome. So we put those along the whole river. So it really looks like it's an actual like moving, flowing river that maybe there'd be some salmon in for the grizzly bears. But now we're going to do a little bit of foliage work. Not a lot of foliage work in this episode. I kind of wanted to trim this episode down, not make it super long, because I did have a ton of footage for this episode because we did a ton of work here. A lot of off-camera work, but we'll show some pretty nice shots at the end. And you saw those shots at the beginning that looked pretty good too. So here we're going to build sort of a retaining wall here since we have this little ditch here so the grizzlies can't jump across or get to the guests or necessarily get out of their exhibit. So that's sort of the goal here. So we're going to build this sort of retaining wall because it kind of just looks bad right now with the terrain just kind of stopping at sort of a cliff, so we need something to kind of hold it. So we're just gonna go for a basic sort of fence using this sort of like I kind of think of it as like a Norse, like northern sort of stone that you'd see something out of like a northern castle. And then we use this our handy dandy go-to log piece that we use all the time because I just love how it looks. And so that's basically what the retaining wall is. And yeah, as you can see here, we're gonna cut, and this is what we end up in the end. We also use this for a fence up in the upper area where we put the education center, as you saw in the glam shots at the beginning. So I really wanted to put an education center into this zoo for grizzly bears because I like them so much, and I thought the zoo might be like in head of, it's sort of like a preservation center, education center. So they do like projects for the grizzly bears, and you can like donate to help rescue the grizzly bears there too, etc. And we might even add a second grizzly bear exhibit on this mountain here because I put so much work into this terrain on this mountain that we might even be able to add a second one just so we can really iron out the fact that they're like trying to rescue these grizzly bears and preserve them in this zoo because we build such a nice big education preservation sort of center for them. Now we're going to start building the top of the cave here. This is the cave. It's a little tall right now. We're going to lower it down in a second, but I wanted to make it look a little look natural but also look a little man-made. So the top sort of arching rock looks a little man-made because it's just kind of like a straight rock, but it still looks really nice in the shots that we do, so I'm really happy with it. So really most of the rest of the time-lapse is a lot of foliage work. We also put down the enrichment items around for the grizzly bears as well, and we build the education center. So I will let it play for the rest of this sort of terrain work in here and foliage work, and I will come back when we're building the education center. So here we are building the education center. Now this is going to be sort of a different building than we've had in the park. A lot of our builds have been a little older styled, definitely sort of lodge themed and everything, and we still stick with this sort of lodge theme here, but I kind of wanted to make a more modern building, feeling like this is, we're getting to the back of the zoo now. This is the bigger ticket exhibits, for lack of a better term, and these are the larger animals that require a lot more like cash to have in your zoo. So I think building more modern buildings back here seems a lot more feasible. And if all this sort of fantasy grizzly bear sort of story I'm building for this exhibit and this zoo is true, then I'd assume they'd have a more modern sort of education preservation center in the back here. So that's what we go for here, and this is the first building in the park I've actually used a reference image for. Now it's not a complete like carbon copy of that image, but I do use it for inspiration because modern style is not really my forte. I'm more used to the classical realistic like sort of basic sort of generic buildings. The lodge style I also kind of enjoy, but you know, making a modern sort of lodge, a little outside of my repertoire, so we're gonna use a reference image here, and I think it turned out great, and I take a little bit of liberties with it, and it just helped me get this idea, and I'm not entirely sure what the reference image was now. It was this modern sort of style lodge. I think if you just search like maybe lodge building on Google, and the first one that looks kind of modern, it probably looks a little like this because I did use this inspiration, but it doesn't look exactly like this, but I really like how it turned out. We use this modern wood that we have. I think it's the New World theme that we used back in episode 3 for our first food court area, and you kind of got to pizzazz it up with all these little like trim pieces, molding pieces, and essentially here we do these like beams, these support beams that support this like style roof. And I think it's a good lodge thing because the snow would just fall right out the back there, and so it's pitched like that. But there's also these like modern supports and this like super modern like glass front so you can see into it. And I think it turned out really nice. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think it's one of my better builds in the park so far, if not the best building that we've made yet. And I do a little bit of detail work on the building off camera, so it's not going to look exactly like it looks in the glam shots and the walkthrough as it necessarily is going to look when we finish up the time lapse here. But we go directly into the walkthrough after, so it's not a big deal. But it was sort of a struggle making these side spots, because what we use for the top and for the beams, or basically all these beams and the cross beams, is this super long like timber piece from the East Asia set, and it's so long that when we try to do it on the sides to fit those side windows that are super sort of small, it doesn't work. It's just too long, so we have to find this little plank piece that I kind of made into a log by twisting it each way and making sort of a makeshift log, and it still kind of overlaps a little, but it works in the end. And here I'm trying to straighten out this beam, and I realize it's not actually straight. It's kind of a little wonky for a reason, maybe to look a little more realistic. Not sure, but that's what it looks like. But I really like what we do here. We go across and put these beams. I think this building does look super cool, and it does look like sort of a lodge style modern building, which I was going for. That makes sense that it would be like a Grizzly Bear sort of research conservation center. So I think it turns out really cool. I'll let the rest of this play, and I will see you guys when we're in the real-time walkthrough. So not quite in the walkthrough yet, but I wanted to explain why I did this. I put these sort of opaque glass pieces out here in front of the already glass front that we made because I didn't want to make an interior to this building. Wasn't sure what I'd make for it, and we're already kind of getting a little framey in the park as is because we've added so much stuff, so I didn't want to do an interior. So we just do this here. We put some education boards inside so guests can still walk in, but they just kind of walk through the building. So here we are in the live walkthrough. We start at the bison exhibit. We're just gonna walk past here, and there's the sort of train that we've built completely off camera. We'll show a little bit of that later, but here is Grizzly Peak is what I'm calling it, and I use this super nice font for the signs here. This is Ricey's classical font. Search that in the workshop. Big shout out to Ricey, great font, and looks super good. We make this little sign here, sort of showing you where to go, and this is the lower viewing area with a super nice shot of the grizzly bear habitat. And you can see, I just love how this turns out. The waterfall looks so good, the stream, all the foliage looks super dense but still looks like it's realistic and spread out like it would up in the mountainous regions where these grizzlies would reside. But it looks super cool, and we're going to go up this way. I'm super happy with all the terrain work I did here. Lots of terrain, mountains, raised areas, and here's that font again. There's the Grizzly Bear Center. See, we did a lot of work off camera with details, but I think it turned out great. It looks super good. But here is another nice shot here. Super happy with how this turned out. Really excited to make this exhibit, and spent a ton of time on it, and I'm really happy. I really like that sign. The font is so good. Big shout out to Ricey. You guys should go download that font because it's a lot better than a lot of the fonts we have in the game. But here's a sneak peek on the inside. It's just a bunch of education screens. The guests can walk in there to learn some stuff. But that's about it for the live walkthrough, and that's about it for the video in general. We're gonna show a few more glam shots here, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. Great environment here. It's just looks super natural, and I'm really happy with this. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I appreciate all the support. Please stay tuned on the channel for my weekly uploads. We upload about twice a week here in our Planet Zoo series. Stay tuned on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day for our holiday special. We're going to be making all the Arctic pack animals. And please like, comment, and subscribe below. Stay tuned. Really appreciate all the support. Here's the little train area we built off camera. It's right in front of the bison exhibit where we had that room. You get sort of this overview shot here. It's not done yet, but I'm going to do all of it off camera because it's really not an exciting video to make. And there's sort of the North American area we have so far. It looks great. The last sort of animal we need to put in here is the timber wolves. So we'll be doing that sometime soon, but I think we'll add an Arctic area now. But thank you guys so much for watching and everything, and I will see you next time.